All right. So, hi, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Sober Yoga Girl. I am super excited to have Laura Naylor on the show today. And Laura has been one of the original Mindful Life Practice community members since the very beginning. So, if you've ever been to a class, you've probably met Laura. She is also the host of the Radio 2 breakfast show in Abu Dhabi. So, welcome to the show, Laura.
Oh, thank you so much, Alex. I'm so excited about this. Thanks for inviting me on.
I'm so happy to have you here. So I was wondering, I want to know more about you and kind of your journey. So I know that you're from the UK, you're in Abu Dhabi here. That's how we met. But how did you end up here? And what has been your journey to this point in your life?
So I was doing presenting in the UK, in London. I'm from Preston, but I was living in London for 8 years. And then I saw this job that I'm doing now advertised on a website, a presenter website. I thought it looked quite fun. So I thought, why not? Even though I've never been to Abu Dhabi or Dubai or the Middle East before, but I just thought, well, why not? Just try it out. So I applied and then I didn't hear anything for a while, so I forgot about it. And then I got an email, then I had some interviews and then got the job. And then I was like, okay, let's go.
Wow. And how long ago was that?
That was 4 years ago.
Okay, so we would have come to Abu Dhabi around the same time because I've been here for 4 years as well.
Yeah, 17.
Yeah, cool. I think we've talked about that before. And were you always on the, when you came over, were you always breakfast with Rich, or were there other things you did?
No, when I first started, I was on breakfast with Rich, and then I've done every show on that station. I've done midday, evenings, drive, but it's been really good. It's been a really good experience for me that I've got to do all the different shows, and now I'm back on breakfast, which I'm really loving, apart from the early morning starts, but everything else I'm loving.
Oh my God. Yeah, it's so early. I don't know. I actually thought of you this morning because I had a yoga class at 9:30 and I pretty much got out of bed at 9:25. And I thought of you being I don't know how Laura does it. It's 4 a.m, right?
Yeah, well, usually around 4:30. But the thing is, I thought it would get easier in time. I thought, after a few months or even after a few years, but it still does not get any easier. Even if I go to bed at 8 o'clock at night, I'm still really tired in the morning. Yeah, but, it's a small price to pay.
Yeah. And then you end work at noon, right?
Well, no, sometimes a bit before that. This is what I shouldn't moan about being tired, because sometimes I'm out of the door at 10:10. It's 4 hours a day. I can't moan about that.
Yeah, that's pretty great. And then I always see your Instagram photos at the beach or the pool or whatever. So that's really nice.
Beach life.
Yeah.
Pool life.
And I can kind of relate to this of me also having a really, really unusual work hours. And so for me, it's actually kind of the opposite. I have most days I don't start until 4 p.m. teaching classes, and I kind of have a bit of freedom in my schedule. And so it's kind of the opposite, but the same in that it's not a typical 9 to 5 as most people do. So tell me a bit about, we talked about this right before the episode started. So right when I met you, you came and did a few of my yoga classes. I had you on social media, and I remember seeing you fundraising for brain tumors. And you had shared a little bit about having a brain tumor yourself. And I wanted to ask you about that because we never talked about that. What was that like?
Well, obviously it wasn't great when I first diagnosed of that. When I was 21, it happened.
Wow.
So basically I started losing hearing in my right ear, but that had started happening since I was 12 or 13, and I have really bad tinnitus in my ear, which is really loud ringing. It's it just sounds like hair dryers going off in your ear all the time.
Yeah.
So I went to the doctors a few times and they just said I was fine. Obviously I had no symptoms apart from the hearing loss and the tinnitus. So then when I was 21, I started working on cruise ships. So I went to Tahiti, of all places. And then for some reason, and I don't know why, I never know what, well, obviously I do, I believe in the higher force, universe, God, whatever you want to call it. I went to the doctor on the ship one day because I thought, I'm really tired and I'm sick of this ringing in my ear. So anyway, on the cruise ships, they've got amazing healthcare. It's amazing. So they sent me off the ship to the hospital to have scans and things. And then they were like, oh, you need to go home, back to the UK. And I was thinking, what the hell? Like, obviously, I didn't think anything had happened, was serious. So then I went home and they're like, you need to go and like have scans and things like that. So I went to the hospital and they did loads of tests on me, but I still didn't think there was anything wrong because I was absolutely fine, apart from that ringing in my ear. And then they did this, they said, oh, you need to have a brain scan. And then they were like, oh, yeah, we found this tumour, which obviously was absolutely horrific. But the worst, I mean, so then that was that, and they're like, you have to have an operation to remove this tumour. So I was like, oh my gosh, I don't want to have an operation. And then he just literally looked at me and said, if you don't have this operation, you will die. Like, you have to have the operation. So, but luckily now, looking back, at least like, there was no social media really then. Otherwise, I would have been looking online, looking what it was, how serious it was. So I had that removed the year after I got the diagnosis, and it all went really well. Like, I had the best professor, and then they said that come back after a year we need to check that it's not come back, because these tumours can grow back. So, and luckily it wasn't cancerous, so that was amazing. But when I went back the second year, they were like, okay, we're really sorry to tell you this, but we've now found another tumour on your other side, on your other ear. So, I mean, obviously my mum was like absolutely devastated. I mean, so was I, but I was just thinking, I don't know why, but something inside me told me I was still going to be all right. I knew I was going to be all right. But then they were like, come back into the hospital. And I mean, this was probably one of the worst days of my life, I would say. There was like 15 doctors around a table, me and my mum and dad, and they were like, listen, we think you've got this condition of tumours on your spine, tumours in your head. You're going to have all your family are going to have to learn sign language. You're going to have this ear removed, because all my right ear now is removed. They had to take everything out of it. So I've got nothing in this ear. Yeah, so obviously that day I was like, oh my God, this is absolutely, like, all my family were devastated, obviously, because of all that. And then the fact that you could get tumours on your spine anytime. So then I went home from that, and then they were like, come back again in another year. So I had a year of thinking, oh my God, this is horrendous. But then the year after that, I went back to the hospital, and the doctor, the professor who I had all the way through, showed me the scans, and he was like, it's gone. Like, the tumour has disappeared.
Wow.
So I was like, well, where has it gone? And he was like, I don't know. So this to me is a miracle, because he even said himself, and he's like the top professor, Professor Ramsden. I don't even know if he's still at Manchester Hospital now, but he didn't know where that had gone. So, I mean, I've always had a very strong faith. I've always believed in something. But obviously, for me to have that happen was proof to me, because where did that tumour go? It was taken away. Thank God. Like, so, yeah. I mean, I can talk about it now, like I'm fine now. But obviously, at the time, it was awful. But at the same time, and I know this sounds really weird, I kind of knew that I was always going to be all right all along. So I now believe that me telling this story will give hope to other people that maybe have tumours, cancer, all these awful things happen, because they can disappear. Because obviously they can, because I've had it.
Yeah.
So I know that it can happen,
Wow.
But thankfully I'm still fine.
What a powerful story, and something so like scary to go through at such a young age.
Yeah.
You're alone.
Yeah, it was really awful. I mean, it was awful. And I think the worst thing was every year having the scans and waiting for the results to come back, because these tumours do grow back. So, having to wait to find out what was the result was awful. But then amazing when you get when it's like it's all fine, nothing's come back.
Yeah. Do you do that? Do you still do that? You get a scan?
No, I've got one more scan to have now. But I think I'm fine. But yeah.
Wow. And it's so powerful, because, you meet people like you in particular, you have this like energy that is like infectious. Like, you're just so positive and so happy and so like loving to everyone. And you meet people like you and you just have no idea like what someone has been through in their life. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean that's the thing, and I am a very happy person, as you know. Like, I'm not fake. I don't put on this positive attitude. That is me. I mean, but then I look at what have I not got to be happy about? But I do really sometimes think. I think a lot of positive, happy people. I think this happens to a lot of people, that people think they've never had anything happen to them in their life.
Yeah.
It's like, well, Laura's all right. Well, what's wrong with what she ever had happen to her? But actually, I have had stuff happen in the past. It's just the way I now choose to live. Well, I have always lived my life like that. But I think it's, and I know people that are very upbeat and positive, and they kind of get not left behind, but it's always kind of like, well, he's all right. She's all right. Yeah. Like, you've never had any hardship in your life. That's the thing, when people don't think you've ever been through anything hard. Yeah. But actually, everybody has to some extent, haven't they?
Totally. I completely agree. There was someone commented on one of my posts. I posted something about like the Tropicana commercial, not liking the way they, were glamorizing alcohol. And someone commented being like, wow, your life is so wonderful that the only problem you have is this commercial. And I was like, oh, okay. This person clearly doesn't know me at all.
Really interesting, Alex, because I think, and I, on my Instagram, when I post things on Instagram, whatever, like, some people are like, oh, you're always so happy, you're always so positive, but, beach life this, pool life this. But actually, that is my life. I am at the beach all the time. I am at the pool all the time. I'm got a great life. I've got a great job. I'm really happy. But a lot of people didn't see me when I had no money. I was crying at the bank in London when I had to try and extend my overdraft, and I'm running to auditions all day long in London trying to get something. I don't think people seem to realise that has happened to me as well. Totally. You know what I mean?
Totally. Well, thank you so much for like being vulnerable and sharing that.
Oh no, do you know what? I'm really happy to share it, because it's weird, because I didn't, when I first told people when I was doing this fundraising, I actually felt quite bad, because even some of my closest friends, I never told them, because not that I didn't want to tell anyone, but it's just a little bit of a difficult conversation to get into, hi, oh, by the way, just let me tell you, I've had 2 brain tumours and this has happened to me and that's happened to me. It's not something that would come up every day, but if somebody asks me, oh, what happened with that, I'll always tell them, always. But I think I've shared my story. I will always share my story if there's somebody in a situation where they're like, oh my gosh, my dad's ill, my mum's ill, I'm ill, I've got this wrong with me. Then I will say, just keep the faith, because miracles can happen. You just got to keep believing.
Mm-hmm. That's the power of sharing our story. I think it's Brene Brown who says, like, share your story, because it might become someone else's survival guide. Yeah. So tell me about how, like, your journey getting into yoga. Were you practicing yoga before you and I met, or was it something that's been like a recent part of your journey?
Well, I did yoga once, I remember, in London at a Fitness First gym, and I will never forget it, because I was really excited about trying it out. And the teacher there, I don't know if I told you this story, but it was just awful, because there's like probably about 25 people in the class, and I obviously had never done yoga before, didn't have a clue what I was doing. And then I was obviously looking around the class, like seeing what everybody was doing. Right. And then she was like, you close your eyes, like literally singling me out in the group. Close your eyes. And then I was like, oh, and I closed my eyes, and then I opened them again to look, and she was like, no, close your eyes, what are you doing? And I was like, oh my God, I'm never, ever, ever doing yoga ever again in my life. That's it. And it really put me off, like massively put me off. Wow. Because I was like, what the hell was that? But then I think I did it, a friend of a friend in London, she was teaching yoga, and she did one class with me, which I went to, which I thought was all right, but I wasn't like massively into it. And then I did your class, didn't I, at the Room in Abu Dhabi?
Yeah.
And then I remember it, because I remember at the end of the class when I came up to you, I was like, oh, you've got such a nice energy about you. You've got such a great energy about you. And then I was like, oh my God, I love that class. And then I was like, okay. And then you set up the Mindful Life practice.
Yeah.
And that was it. And now I'm addicted.
And for a while too, like I remember the class that you came to, it just happened to be like I was subbing on a Saturday morning or something. Because then I think the time of my classes for a while before the mindful life practice weren't always working with your schedule, because it seems like you like have evening stuff going on. And I often taught later, like 6:30 p.m., 7:30 p.m. And, since you're up in the middle of the night, you have to go to bed really early. But once the mindful life practice started and there's like the convenience of doing it from your home, and also I was able to set my own schedule. So I was teaching earlier. It just worked. And now it's like, I think it's like 18 months later and you've done yoga like almost every day of that time, which is wild.
Oh my gosh, do you know what? I was thinking about it today before I came on here, and I thought, oh my gosh, like there's so many times I sometimes think, what would I do like if the mindful life practice actually stopped? And I'm just like, oh my God, that can never happen. That can never happen, because now it's like a massive part of my life, honestly.
Yeah.
But do you know what, Alex? I have to say that, and I'm not just saying this, your classes completely saved me during that last year, during the whole, when COVID first hit. And it was absolutely horrific for me. And now, this is another thing that people did, I think, last year with the whole, everybody suffered in one way or another with COVID. Yeah. They did. And even the people that say they didn't, they did, because it was like such a shock for the whole world. But I think there was like this kind of mentality at the time. It was like, well, if you've still got your job and you're still earning money, you're fine. Again, it's like, you're fine. Don't you moan or complain. You can't be stressed because you've still got a job. But yeah, it was probably one of, apart from obviously the whole illness and brain tumour thing, probably one of the most stressful times of my life. And I very rarely get stressed.
Yeah.
And I was, working from home, as you know, I'm not very technical, and doing, can't even click on a Zoom link to make that work. But doing a radio show from your home, I mean, it was just, I'd get up at 5 a.m, 6 o'clock, and the WhatsApp messages would be continuous till 9, 10 o'clock at night. Okay. And then I just remember that hour of yoga every day. It was just like the best possible thing ever.
It was like selfish for me too, if that makes sense. Like I was in as much of a spiral as everyone else, just like what is happening right now in the world. And for me, it was like, I started doing it because like I needed to do it for my own mental health, and so just to hear, I don't know, the way it like benefited and anchored people, like I'm just so glad that people got the benefit from it that, I did as well.
Oh my gosh, it was so good. And I remember at one point, my dad saying to me on the phone, these yoga classes have completely saved you. Like they've saved, and they did. And it's really hard to explain. Whenever I explain to my friends who have never done yoga, and it's weird because, and I talk about yoga and I love it so much, but I know you always say you can't say you're not good at yoga because there is no good and bad. But like, I'm not flexible. I'm not great with all the positions. But there's something about it. Remember when I said to you that time, and I said, what is it about yoga? Like, how does it, I remember, especially during the last year, when I'd start the class and be like, oh my gosh, I'm so unbelievably stressed. Yeah. And then by the end of it, I was absolutely fine after 1 hour of yoga. Like fine, like a different person.
It's amazing.
But remember, what was it that you put? I think you posted something saying yoga is magic or yoga is a miracle, but it actually is, Alex. Isn't it? Mm-hmm. Like, and it's hard to explain like what it is that does it to you, but it does.
Yeah, 100%.
I couldn't imagine not doing yoga now. Like, even if I miss like a couple of days, if I'm on holiday or I'm away for the weekend, I'm like, my body and my mind, I'm like, oh my God, I need to go. I need to do a class.
Yeah, totally. I have a question for you. Have you ever thought about becoming a yoga teacher?
Oh my gosh, no. No. Do you know what I do? I like the whole like, see, I wouldn't mind doing it if I could do it well. But I can't do the poses that well. But also, this is the thing as well, Alex, about you, is that, sometimes I've been to classes, and don't get me wrong, yoga is great wherever you go, but there's something about your style of teaching that I love. It's like you tell your story, there'll be like quotes thrown in there. I love a good quote, as you know. But that's what I think makes it for me, because I'm not saying anyone can stand there and go, okay, downward dog, okay, stand like this, do that. And that's all well and good. But I think there's something I think when you find the right teacher, or for me now with the right community of people, that makes a difference. Because I always say to my friend, whenever if my friends are going through difficult times, I'll be like, oh, just try yoga. Like, just try yoga. And they're like, oh, I don't know that. But it has to be Alex's yoga. Like, it has to be my whole life practice, because otherwise it won't be the same.
Oh, it means so much to me, honestly, to have your support.
But it is, honestly, Alex, it's so true. Like, I'm so grateful for all the classes, honestly.
You're going to be a yoga teacher.
No, I'm not. You know what I find as well with the yoga, like with the, I know you do a lot of meditation, but that is something that I've really struggled with. I've tried it a couple of times, not your meditation, but I'm like, oh, I can't, because my mind's always racing. But in a way, yoga is also meditation, isn't it?
Totally.
Because you're off your phone for a start. I'm always on my phone, so at least it gives me an hour without my phone. So you've got your thought, your mind is clear whilst you're doing that yoga class.
Yeah, it's like a moving meditation, like moving with the breath and the poses. And I'm similar to you. When I started, meditation in itself, sitting, was just not possible. Even like the yin classes were very difficult for me in the beginning. So much stillness. And then it's kind of like a muscle that grows over time. And, you know, you do a little bit sprinkled in here and there, like at the end of a asana yoga practice. But no, I can totally relate to that.
But I would like to try the meditation. I am going to do that, actually. I'm going to try that.
Yeah. We have a lot on the website, I used to do Instagram lives, actually. I used to do Instagram live meditations, and then there were just so many weird messages in the people watching and commenting like, I want to date you. I was like, I can't do this.
Who needs Tinder when you've got meditation on Instagram?
So I want to ask you a bit about your sober curious journey.
Yeah.
So tell me a bit about your relationship with alcohol.
So alcohol, I think, for me, has always been around and I would say my job, because when I first left home, when I was 18, and I went to work on holiday parks in the UK as an entertainer, alcohol was everywhere, every night. Entertainers, they're drinking, and you go, you're meeting all the holiday makers, drink. Then I worked on cruise ships after that, and that was like heavily, influenced by alcohol, the crew bar. I mean, don't get me wrong, it was a great lifestyle, but it's alcohol here, alcohol there. Then, working in London, in events, TV, it's alcohol's everywhere, offered to you all the time. So, and I did obviously drink and socialise and take the free drink whenever I got it. But then I think it was mainly really when you started the Sober Curious thing, I was thinking, oh, actually, maybe I should have a look into this, because I remember what it was. When I first did that class with you, and I followed you on Instagram, remember? Yeah. And then I saw on your Instagram you put Sober Girl or something. This is before you set up the Sober Curious thing. And then I came up to you the next class and said, oh, I've noticed on your Instagram you don't drink. And I was like, why do you not drink? But then at that time, it was really weird. That I believe in all this, like the signs and all this. And I think I told you this, that a guy who I knew in Dubai, who was a presenter at the time, I met up with him, and he had also told me this story of how he doesn't drink. And he told me all this stuff. And I was like, all right. And he said, I don't know when to stop drinking. It's not good for me. And he started telling me this stuff. And I thought, okay. And then I stumbled across that 1 year no beer on Facebook. And it said, everybody should try not drinking for 3 months and see how it changes their life. And then I was like, right, that's it. It's a sign. I'm going to Alex's thing, and I'm going to try it out. Because, I think everyone, you can go out and enjoy your drink. Don't get me wrong, I'm very social and I love to drink and I love to hang around with my friends. And I think for me, it's a very social thing, the drinking. But then at the same time, not now, but when I was younger, I did have a massive problem with not knowing when to stop drinking. Yeah. Which I actually think a lot of people have this problem. And I think what I love about your Sober Curious thing is that it's making people, as it says, curious, because people are thinking, well, actually, I don't know when to stop. People listening to this now will probably be like, oh, actually, I don't know when to stop drinking either. that's a point. I might have a little look at this, because there's so many people that have it. And especially, you know, with the UAE, with the situation with the drink here, it's everywhere, isn't it? Like it's part of your life here.
Totally. It's so interesting here because, like, I remember back when I was teaching yoga at the gym publicly, I wasn't sure, like, I didn't talk about my sobriety in my classes because I wasn't sure what I could say and what I couldn't say, because on the one hand, you have the expat party culture, which is just extreme, you know, like it's 1 p.m. on a Friday and people are playing flip cup and you're like, what is happening? Like, it's like a college frosh week. And then on the other extreme, you have people in the traditional local culture who alcohol is not a part of their life. And so it's a really interesting combination. And I think because of that, there isn't like much discussion and awareness about, you know, the harmful effects of drinking. And there just isn't really, like, I think I'm the only kind of sober, curious advocate in the region that I know of. It's just not really talked about.
No, and I think it's really interesting that, you know, I think a lot of people are like, okay, oh, what is this sober stuff? Oh, this is ridiculous. Like, there's nothing wrong with you. Like, come on, you know, you've not got a problem. You don't need to be giving up drink. And then there's the other people that are massively into the sober thing, which is brilliant, because now it's becoming a trend and it's a craze to be sober, you know, and which is fantastic. But I also think that it's important to mention that it's, you know, you're not doing this for people that get up in the morning and have a vodka at 6 a.m.
Yeah.
This is for people like me. Like, I go out to a brunch with my friends. I love to socialise. I love to have a drink with my friends. I'm not an alcoholic. I'm not getting up in the morning and having vodka. But do I sometimes go out and drink too much? Yes, I do. Do I sometimes go out and not think, oh my gosh, I should be stopping now? Yeah, I do. So that's for, it's for like people that are like, you know, I mean, there's so many people that I know, like on Friday brunches, they'll go out, we've all done it, forget what we've done, forget what we've said, we've messaged people we shouldn't be messaging, oh, we feel horrific the next day, oh my gosh, we're hungover, and then it starts again the following week and the following week. But, you know, I remember at my birthday brunch, and I think because I did those 3 months sober, didn't I, last year with you, and I think that completely changed everything for me then. And I've become a lot better now. But I remember looking around because I still went out. I still did everything I would have done if I'd been drinking. And I didn't feel like I missed out at all. In fact, I had a better time not drinking. But like, even at my birthday brunch, I remember, I don't know if you were there, when there was a girl there that she got carried out by security at one point, and because she was that drunk. And I remember sitting, watching, thinking, I feel so sorry for that girl, because I thought she's going to feel tomorrow. Everyone's going to be laughing at her. But nobody else felt sorry for her. Everybody else, all my other friends were like, oh my gosh, look at the state of her. Did you see that girl? Oh my God. And it's like, really, who the hell wants that? Yeah. Nobody. But it's not, and it's like, you don't realise, I think, until you actually stop and look at the situation and go, well, actually, this is not nice, and it's not healthy, and it's not good. And also what I've noticed as well, since like being the sober curious, is friends of mine and, you know, people that you know, Alex, that have given up alcohol and their lives have transformed since they've stopped drinking. And there's quite a few people that I've been watching their stories going along, and I think, well, this is not a coincidence, because it's happened too many times to too many different people now. So once you give up the drink, all other areas of your life improve. Like the careers have skyrocketed, the relationships, like everything has changed for the better.
Totally.
You know, like, you don't think you ever hear anybody saying, oh, I wish I hadn't have given up drinking, do you? Never. But even though I'm saying this and I'm still drinking, so I'm not saying I don't agree with drinking, because I do like to have a drink, but I just like to have to drink a few drinks, not to go too crazy. Yeah. That's what I want
to be
that, which I can, you know, more or less now, I will say, apart from the odd time, I have learned to, you know, quite good with that. But then I am still curious to think, well, maybe what would my life be like if I gave it up completely? You know, like I said to you. So like, I'm at the stage now where I'm really, I'm only having a few drinks. I'm not going mad, which I used to go crazy when I was younger. So that's a massive improvement already. So I feel happy for that, and I feel thankful to you for that. For like, you know, just with even that with the Instagram posts, with the social media, and it's really good. But then I think, what would your life be like if you completely gave it up? Mm-hmm. And I remember seeing that guy. I know I always say this, tell this story to you, but you know the guy who used to do the 1 year no beer,
Andy.
Andy.
Yeah. And
it was his Facebook video that came up that time, and I was like, okay. And he said, you know, if you're going out to an event, say, like, and this has happened to me so many times, where I'm thinking, okay, it's brunch today. I don't want to go crazy. I don't want to be hungover tomorrow. So in my mind, I'm like, okay, right. What I'll do is I'll have some Prosecco, say. I'll have 4 glasses of Prosecco, and that's it. But then, when you're at the brunch, you're thinking, okay, right, oh my gosh, right, can't have any more, can't drink after the brunch. But then, like he was saying, and it's so true, like, but all that extra energy that you're pouring into your mind, going, right, don't drink that. Oh no, oh my gosh, somebody's brought a shot over it. You can't have that shot. Oh my God, no. Then you have the shot, and then you're like, oh no, now we're going somewhere else. Should I go somewhere else? Should I drink? What should I drink at this bar? It's like, it can be exhausting, that.
Yeah.
So then, like he was saying, like, why just don't drink? Just don't drink the alcohol when you go out. I mean, it's easier said than done, but he's right.
Mm-hmm. I remember actually.
Interesting about the whole thing, you know?
Yeah. I was going to say, it reminded me of, I remember at your birthday, because we had talked about it before, and you saying that you were just going to, you know, have 1 beer. And then I remember people kept like handing you like giant bottles of like Grey Goose, and like wanting to take pictures of you with them. And, you know, I don't care. I'm like, I'm not judging like whether Laura drinks or not. It doesn't matter to me. You know, I'm here as like her friend at her birthday, but I just thought it was so funny because you were like trying to like.
I was like, oh. But then you know what? I did to have that beer, and then I did have a couple of glasses of champagne that someone gave me. But I was absolutely fine, and it was probably like one of the best birthdays I've ever had, because I wasn't like completely, I didn't go too far. But that's the thing. But then the thing is, though, it's easier said than done, because sometimes you'll go out, and it'll depend on, like, you know, especially for me, getting up at 4:30 in the morning. So Thursday nights, now I'm like, I can't go out on a Thursday night and drink, because I'm so tired that, you know, being tired affects how drink affects you. What's happening to you at the time. Like if you're going through, you know, whatever you're going through, you might want to drink more. And it's not really worth it. But I think there's a lot of people that can go out and just have 1 or 2 drinks and be fine.
Yeah.
But there's also a lot of people, more people I would say, that will go out, drink, and not know when to stop, and then feel horrific. And then it's like, well, what actually is the point in this?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Especially when I was younger. I'm a lot better now. But when I was, especially like in my 20s, in my early 20s, like the stuff that I would be, you know, going out, drinking, not stopping drink. It was just like, and I remember one time I went out and my sister said to me, but this is the thing, and it's actually quite scary when you look at it, because we went out somewhere in Manchester, then we had loads of drink, and then we got back to my sister's friend's house, and I was like, right, come on then, let's open another bottle of wine. And my sister was like, oh my God, like, how can you even think to be opening another bottle of wine? We've drank so much. But I genuinely, like, especially when I was younger, there was nothing in me that knew when to stop drinking, nothing at all. Mm-hmm. But I think a lot of people have that. Mm-hmm. Because, and you know, if you don't know when to stop, then you're not going to stop, are you? And like, you know, I think it's interesting, because people who will listen, you know, and then if you're because for me, I am a good, if I'm drunk, I'm not a bad drunk. I'm not an angry drunk. I'm happy. Sometimes I fall asleep. But that's what I will do. So people will be like, oh my gosh, Laura, like you're really social, you're happy, you're fine. And that's another thing, I think, when people are like, you're fine, because then you're like, oh, well, I am fine.
Right.
But actually, it's just, sometimes I just think it's just easier just to stop. And there's so many stories that are similar to this that I've heard from friends of friends. And it's just like, oh, you know, and that guy that I told you about, the guy that, a friend of mine who was a presenter in Dubai, but he's not here anymore. he had said to me, and it always stuck with me, he said, I gave up drinking because he said he had a horrific night and he was drank far too much, didn't know when to stop. And he said, I thought, okay, I'm going to have to stop. I'm stopping drinking now. He said, because I thought if I don't stop now, what am I going to do? Wait until it's too late, until something awful happens to me.
Right.
And actually, I mean, I know it sounds dramatic, but the stories that you hear about what alcohol, because it changes your whole perception, doesn't it? And then people will say, well, you know, it's not the same, but it's similar. Like my mum will always say, you know, she struggled with her weight all her life and she'll eat too much. So she'll say, you know, if I've got a packet of biscuits on the table here, a full packet of biscuits, I'll eat all those biscuits because I want to eat them because I've got this thing with food. But then my mum would say to me when I was younger, but if there's a bottle of wine there, you wouldn't be able to just drink one glass. You'd drink 2 or 3 glasses. So, but then I always used to say, yeah, but the difference is, Mum, with food and alcohol, you're not waking up in the morning after you've had them biscuits going, oh my gosh, what did I do? What did I say? Can't remember getting home. Whereas the alcohol, you are. Sometimes, I mean, when I was younger, it was, and I always remember what my dad said once, and I actually do think this is true. I know a lot of people might disagree, but my dad always said to me and my sisters growing up, alcohol is the worst drug. Because in a way, because it's legal, it's fine, everyone's like, you're social, you're with your friends, you're being sociable. But if you have too much, I mean, God knows what actually could happen, really. Yeah. So that's why I think when you set up this, I was like, all right, let me have a look at this, because it's interesting, really, as well, to me. Mm-hmm. But I'm saying this, and people will be like, oh, Laura, look at you doing this sober thing and that. Look, we've just seen you out. I mean... But don't get me wrong, but this is coming from me, and I love a drink, and I'm very aware that at this moment in time I'm not giving up at the moment, but right. I do think it's important that you only drink what you can manage.
Yeah.
You know, and also it's embarrassing. And I remember when I first got to Abu Dhabi, I mean, oh my gosh, I was like a kid in a sweet shop, out every weekend.
Me too.
I don't know how I did it. I was like, oh my gosh, like getting up in the morning and during the week at 5 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning, then rocking in 5 o'clock in the morning on Friday, Saturday, Friday, Saturday mornings. But it was like that was the culture there. Well, it still is the culture, but now I think I can't do that anymore. And it's so easy now looking around when you see people, you know, the brunches, they all start off so civilized and then it just ends in
shambles. Yeah,
shambles every time.
Every time.
Yeah, but then, you know, and somebody was saying to me the other day, oh, you know, I just wish that we could go to brunches and just go home after the brunch. But I don't know. I mean, I've been here for 4.5 years and I've not known one person to go home after a brunch. I haven't, Alex. And it's like, and then it's the after party and that spirals out of control. And it's just like, oh.
Yeah. It's amazing that you've been able to, you know, moderate and like reduce in the culture that we are in now. And I think even just having like a curiosity about it, right? No one's journey is completely linear. And, you know, so kind of having a curiosity, taking your 90-day break, moderating, like those are all, it's like mindful drinking, you know?
Yeah, and I think another thing, I think I've said this to you before about, you know, like I was thinking even this month, I thought, oh, do you know what, I'm going to do like dry August, I'm going to have a break from, you know, drinking. But then I thought, oh no, well, you know, I've got a week off, I've got that Eid holiday, and I've got this, oh, maybe I'll do September. Then I was like, oh yeah, but my friend's birthday's in September. But I think we like associate like drinking with these things like holidays, birthdays, Christmases. You know, oh, you celebrated something, let's have a drink. You sad about something, let's have a drink.
Totally.
Isn't it? Like, and really, I think it's everything. Well, I do believe everything's in your mind, but I think the same for the alcohol as well. That's why I'm so like curious about it, because I find it interesting.
Yeah.
As well as the fact that it's, you know, I've cut down a hell of a lot. And I'm proud of myself for doing that, because it is easy to, you know, and I think like, you know, some people are like, oh, well, you know, all it is you go out and have a few drinks and then sometimes you go too far. That's what every single human being does. But I think other people that have had, you know, when I was younger and I did have that issue of not being able to stop.
Yeah.
I think it is important for me to be like aware of and be cute. And this is really, I think it's great what you've set up, Alex, because nobody else is doing this kind of thing, are they?
Mm-hmm.
I think like other people are like, right, stop drinking, whereas you're not like that. You're like, it's your own journey, but you are allowed to be, you can be curious about it without giving up the alcohol.
Totally.
You know, and everything in moderation. But like my mum used to say to me when I was younger, everything in moderation, but then if you don't know when to stop, then you shouldn't. Well, that's the thing, isn't it? You know, but I think only you, well, each person that they, if they're curious, they'll find their own like path and what helps them, and what's for them. Yeah.
Well, if you ever decide that you want to take another break again,
I do want to do that. And you know what, Alex? Last time I took that break, it was honestly one of the best things I've ever done. And even like friends of mine would say to me, "Oh my gosh, you can tell you're not drinking anymore because you look different. Like you look so much better." Yeah. Whereas I wasn't think I looked better, but it's like everything. And also another thing, I think I heard, I think Jasmine said this on her podcast with you. Like for the weekend when she was like, you know, you drink, so if you're out at a Friday brunch, I can't possibly meet you on Saturday morning because I'll be hungover, so Saturday's out.
Right.
Like, so a whole day of your week is out because you know you're going to be hungover from that day. But that's really sad, isn't it? To think, oh my gosh, that day's gone now because and then when I was that 3 months when I was up every morning doing yoga, doing whatever. And I remember my friend said to me, a really good friend of mine in Australia, she sent me a voice note once, and she said, Laura, she was like, you're at your best when you're not drinking and you're doing yoga. And I was like, that's true. She was like, that's when you're at your best.
Yeah, it's so true.
Yeah.
Well, if you do ever are curious about it again, we have since you joined last time, we now have the Sober Curious Yoga School. So it involves like meditation and yoga and also journaling. You probably really like it, actually, these workbooks. So whenever you're ready for exploring it again, I'm here.
Yeah, I'll definitely be doing it again. Definitely.
Awesome. All right. I have a very important question for you. So yesterday you posted a picture of Carrie and Big together from Sex City. And now the debate is happening on my Instagram poll. I have to tell you, it's like the most voted for poll that I've ever done on my Instagram story. There's like hundreds of people that have voted, and majority are Team Aiden, unfortunately. I know you're Team Big.
My gosh. Do you know what? It's so funny because I was like, I love Big, I love Mr. Big, but my friend sent me a massive message into my Instagram, and he was like, oh my God, Laura, are you actually serious? Team Big? God's sake, like, what is wrong with you? But you know what? Mr. Big has got something about him. Like, he's just got this, you know. But Aiden, don't get me wrong, Aiden is a lovely guy. Like, Aiden is very sweet and everything.
But Big does have this charm. He 100% does. I loved him when I only saw the movie, like movie one. I was like, oh my God, this handsome, charming, rich guy who gets a penthouse with a walk-in closet, you know, like it was very, very charming. And then when I watched the whole season, I was just like, I mean, to be fair, I also watched the whole season the summer when I was like experiencing depression. So it's like maybe that impacted my view of him. Like my mood was just like bad that summer, but no, I'm an Aiden fan.
It just made me laugh when you said, oh, well, fair enough, he bought her a walk-in closet. I suppose that's enough. No, but do you know what it is about Mr. Big? I think Mr. Big is one of those guys who's got lots of layers, many layers, you know, and you've got to peel down the layers to get to the core. Yeah. I do quite like guys like that.
Well, I'll have to.
Aiden's nicer, obviously, but yeah.
I'll have to watch the whole series again now. I feel re-inspired before the next movie comes out. We can do We can do a Sex and the City marathon. That would be fun.
Yeah. Yes, definitely.
Do it.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering, last question before we wrap it up, do you have any advice for someone who wants to start a yoga journey or a sober curious journey or both?
I think definitely try because you do I know you used to do like the week's free trial or something, don't you? Like
2 weeks.
Do that. 2 weeks, that's it, yeah. I would definitely 100% recommend and I'm not just saying this because I'm your friend and I'm doing this on this podcast, but I would definitely recommend your classes over anybody else's, the NLPC. And I didn't have any yoga experience before I started with you, and I'm not, flexible and anything like that, but it has really, honestly, and I cannot thank you enough, Alex, it has seriously changed my life, these classes. I could not live without these classes now, honestly, seriously. And with the sober curious yoga, not just your other sober curious, I think everyone should try it, Alex. I think if you've ever been out and about, whether you're in the UAE or wherever you are, and you've had hangovers, you've woken up the next morning and oh my gosh, I remember that awful feeling from when I was younger, waking up still in your clothes, lights on, can't find your phone, where's your bag, where's your wallet, how did you get home? If you've ever experienced that in your life, and you're still experiencing it, then you should be curious to think, well, what would my life be like without that in it?
Yeah.
And it's not saying, but you know what I mean, Alex? It's not, you're not preaching to people. This is the thing. And I think some people get a little bit confused thinking, oh my God, like what's this, all giving up alcohol? But you're actually not saying that. It's just people that are curious that, and let's be honest, I love a drink, but our lives would be better without it. Mm-hmm. For many different reasons. And I think we all know that. And I think the interesting thing is, whoever I speak to, like my friends, and they're like, oh my God, Laura, like, why are you doing that? You don't need to give up. You're fine, which I am fine. But I then think, actually, you're curious because you keep asking me about it.
Yeah.
So that's also interesting because I think they wouldn't keep asking me or giving me their opinions on it if they weren't curious, would they? Totally. And these are also drinkers that have had hangovers, that have had anxiety, that have had all this kind of thing. So it's like, well, actually, why don't you just try it and see what it does for you?
Totally. Just give it a whirl.
Now, whenever anyone sees me out and about with a wine, they're going to be like, right, excuse me, how many have you had?
Well, Laura, thank you so much for coming on the show. It was honestly so fun to just sit down and chat with you and get to know you better. And I really appreciate you taking the time to be on the show. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Alex. It's been so nice to chat to you as always. And thank you so much for the classes. I really do appreciate you and all the teachers. You're all.
Thank you, Laura. And you have a class soon now, right?
Yes, I do.
So we'll let you get going to that. Take care, Laura.
Thanks, Alex. Bye.
Bye.